Welcome to No Free Lunch, Africa's freshest business and tech podcast, with me, your host, Greg Stewart. And with me in the studio today is a serial entrepreneur, somebody who's founded several tech companies and been involved in the whole entrepreneurial journey that we're going to hopefully dive into a little later. And with me, I'm very pleased to have Peter Adolphs. And Peter is the co-founder and CEO of AskMandla, a South African fintech startup based in Stellenbosch. Welcome to No Free Lunch, Peter.
Great to be with you, Greg. Thanks so much for having me.
So, Peter, AskMandla is a really interesting business concept, and I'm really glad that we came across your company. And it deals with a segment of the marketplace that is not often focused on, and that is the domestic worker environment in South Africa. Well, particularly the domestic worker environment. We'll get into a discussion around that later. But essentially, you've developed a platform on WhatsApp. And the WhatsApp platform, as I understand it, is offering a full service HR employment journey with all of the legal requirements and bits and pieces, all built on WhatsApp specifically for the South African domestic worker market. And that's quite amazing. So welcome to No Free Lunch, and I hope we get some great insights for you along the journey.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm gonna kick back there a bit. You're a serial entrepreneur. You've started several other fintechs along the way. You've had that whole journey, and I think the last one you had, you landed up selling to a multi-choice or something like that, and now into a completely different market. First of all, can you tell us a bit about your journey? What drove you through all of those different things? Are you just an absolute entrepreneur nutter and always looking to build the next best thing? What drives you in the morning? Tell us a bit about that journey. That's important for people to hear.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I think what's a big thing for me is that, and I love to tell people this is, I love this country. I love living here, and I love being involved in things that are at least trying to make a big impact in this country, and hopefully enabling us to continue living here, for my kids to continue living here. It's a big driver in all that I'm involved with. So 100% correct. So a couple of the big initiatives that I've been part of this, previously are big Wi-Fi deployments up in Tshwane. Some with the likes of Eleanor Craig Jr. with the Tshwane Wi-Fi project, and also up in Limpopo with Facebook and those kinds of projects that are really have made a big impact on information and technology and getting people access to information. The next was, and it's just landed in my lap by chance by being involved with those other projects, was Namola, which is South Africa's largest safety application, which obviously is trying to make a massive impact in the safety space, keeping South African space safe and getting them access to help when they need it. And I was there for about 10 years, and it really showed me the ability that technology has these days to make a meaningful impact on the lives of ordinary citizens. And I mean, we went through the typical struggles of any startup there. We managed to, build up a massive following through just, a freemium model and just, through the fact that people are concerned about safety in South Africa. And, I think it showed the potential, which is why I think it led to the successful sale to MultiChoice back in 2022. And I worked within that space for a while and exited in March last year. And I really had the intention of not, I was like, I'm an avid cyclist. I was like, I want to sit back, see what else is happening in the country. And I'm just going to go ride my bike for 3 months. And that wasn't what happened. A very good friend of mine, now partner in this AskMandla venture, a guy by the name of Samuel Clark, ex-CEO of Skynamo, said to me, look, there are these two great people, the Kane Bermans, Janine and Roger, who've got this application called Sheshaloza, and it's there to try and bridge this compliance gap that lives with the domestic space, because the numbers stack up. Just about all domestic employment is very informal, and they've built this application and they're struggling. They ran into typical app building challenges, expensive,
Yeah.
breaking the whole time. Can you go and just have a chat to them, see if you can impart some wisdom on them, now that you've got some free time. Anyway, we were all in St. Francis Bay, happened to be there at the same time. Went in, had a chat with them, and I was like, jeepers, these are great people. And this is actually, the penny dropped that this is actually a massive opportunity, because there are, the number of domestic workers that, and the lives that could be impacted with the solution that really, as the mission of the business, what it is, trying to bring this really informal employment sector and trying to pull it into the formal economy. The light bulbs just went on for me, and that's when we started discussing, how does this really happen? Which I said to them, look, the first thing is, apps are they're not going to get any cheaper to make, and we really need to do something that takes this solution to the market where they are. And Sam and I discussed this hard, and we said, look, WhatsApp, everybody in South Africa, just about everybody in South Africa has got WhatsApp. If you've got a smartphone, or even some of the dumb phones these days, all have access to a basic version of WhatsApp. We've got to develop this thing on WhatsApp.
Yes.
So that's kind of where it all started, and it's been a fantastic journey to date, a year down the line.
So just in terms of that, I mean, you started off looking at something that would just provide a solution for essentially a legal contract that is required. And it's very difficult. I mean, people, who hire domestic workers often have no sophisticated or perhaps limited knowledge of HR processes and labor laws and all these sort of things. But it does create challenges. You've moved beyond that, though, haven't you? You've dipped into a bit of your fintech experience and so on, and you've given that a much broader platform of products and services. You want to tell us a bit about some of the other services? I believe there's like a small micro loan type facility and so on. Tell us about the other services that you're adding on.
So look, the compliance is very much the wedge. It's the thing that is obviously, for everything else that we intend on doing, the requirement that we need to get in place. So we wanted to make this as easy as possible. So if you can chat to somebody on WhatsApp, you can engage with our AI bot, and it has the tool set to do everything from onboard you to set up your contract with you and your employer, all through a WhatsApp conversation. There's no physical signing of any documentation. You're literally agreeing to a contract within the WhatsApp chat. And what that does, it sets up the basis for the legal requirements. So if you employ someone for more than 24 hours in a month, you're legally required by the BCEA to have a written contract. You're legally required to pay UIF, and you should be giving them a payslip. Now, this solution and the compliance and HR component of it does all of that. So it sets up that contract, it sets up the UIF, or it at least gets us to the place where we can start registering for UIF on your behalf. It sets up the payroll infrastructure, which we then facilitate on a monthly basis. So we ensure that your salary comes in, that we're paying it at the right time, and then very importantly, which is phenomenal for an employee who's been out of the formal economy for their entire careers, they get this payslip, they get this record of employment, the dignity to say, look, I can now go and apply for things like credits or a home loan or whatever the case may be, because I can prove to you how much I'm getting paid, and here are my deductions, and I'm legally compliant. So that is the basis of the solution, and it's the part that we charge a subscription fee to the employer. So that's our current revenue model. But what we quickly found out is that we thought it would be quite sexy for an employer, and that everybody would be flocking to this thing because it's it's something that they're supposed to do. But the reality is, and this is potentially a bit of a shortcoming, is that the enforcement there of thereof in terms of the compliance from a governmental level is not very high. So we don't have this massive drive, and it's a bit of an honesty card from our side. And we had to think about, what we've effectively actually got two customers here. We've got the employer, who is currently our primary because they're the paying customer. But we know the future of this business really lies in the employee being our primary customer. So how do we get there? Obviously, we need to start thinking about services and products that we can sell to them and make available to them that they haven't had in the past. And that's exactly what you were referring to. Where we're dipping our toe in is within definitely not the micro loan space yet, because obviously we need to get we need to give an FSP license in place and make sure that we've got all our checks and balances sorted out on that front. But what we are doing is a thing called earned wage access, which is not new in South Africa. There are some very successful companies that are currently doing that through mostly on a B2B level through applications, the likes of a Pay Me Now or a Gem or these other big guys, but no one on a consumer level to the domestic workers. And so what we've done and what we were able to do is we know that they've got a payslip, they've got the contracts in place. The salary component is de-risking the advancement of this cash. And we're able to facilitate before the 25th payday or the end of month payday, we're able for them to access some of their salary early in order to take care of things that traditionally they may have had to go to a loan shark, a machinista, or a friend or family to go loan from, often at exceptionally high interest rates, almost between 50 and 100% interest from some of these guys. They now have the ability simply to send our WhatsApp bot a WhatsApp message saying, listen, I need to buy some school shoes. I mean, they don't have to tell us what they need the cash for. They simply say, I need 500 Rand, please. And the system, intelligently goes and checks against the current status of their account, the employer status of their payments. And it goes, absolutely, here you go, within 24 hours. Or they can actually even request an instant payment. That cash is in their account and gets deducted properly against their pay slip at the end of the month. So it's all recorded, zero hassle for both parties. So it's a peace of mind for the employer and access to quick cash for the employee. It's amazing.
Just explain the whole setup of the structure to me a bit in terms of the employee and the employer. So the employer is paying the salary. I'm assuming that this works then on some sort of a money wallet type situation, or how does that work? Does the salary get paid over to you, or how does the deduction work, etc.? Just explain that process, because I think that's quite important for people to understand.
100%, yeah. So again, today, and this might change in the future, what we are doing is creating and providing an end-to-end payroll HR compliance service as the base, right? So on a monthly basis, as an employer, you register with us. All the paperwork, the contracts, and obviously our T's and C's are included within that, are set up front. We then bill you on a monthly basis for everything. So that's your employee salary, your UIF and COIDA and whatever other requirements are due at that particular time. And then that sits within your wallet infrastructure. And then on, minus any leave deductions or EWA deductions, etc., which are obviously recorded within the system and then on the payslip, we then pay the salary at the right time to the right bank account. Obviously these are all batched and done so that they sit and go off at exactly the right time. And then all the statutory requirements, so the UIF payments and all that, are also done through us on the employer's behalf. So it's really supposed to be super simple for a super low price. Yeah.
So in that scenario, I'm assuming the employee needs to have a bank account, and they need to obviously have a form of identification and so on. If they do not have a bank account, how does that operate? Is there a money wallet type situation?
So there's two parts to this answer. So today, we obviously in the early stage of this business, we are pretty specific right now on who we can cater for. So right now, today, you got to have a bank account. Well, first of all, you got to be either a resident or you legally have to be able to work here. So even as a foreign national, as long as you've got a work permit, we can facilitate, because in both scenarios, you're still required to pay UIF as an example. So you've got to have you've got to have a bank account, you've got to be registered, and have a legal ID, etc. And then it's facilitated to a bank account. What we are very cognizant of, and as we are growing and engaging with more customers, potential customers, we are spotting those gaps. So what we know is that there are obviously those that are unbanked, that either choose to be or unbanked, or choose not to want to engage in those particular tools and products. And we've got to start looking how to cater for those. So we are in the process at the moment. We are definitely setting up a wallet infrastructure that will house, that will obviously house everything, all the salary components, and then also give the customer on both ends, so the employer and employee, access to the wallet to manage, and then also access to the various products that we intend to look at offering in the future once we are able to offer things like microfinancing, microloans, looking into healthcare. We're looking into partnering with other organizations, whether it's the likes of an Easy Equities, where we can actually offer micro investments for these guys so that they can start. Because something that we get on a regular basis is, oh, won't you just keep aside 500 Rand a month for me and then give that to me at the end of the year, so that I've got a little nest egg at the end of the year, which is fantastic. So the guys know they want to do it, but they they also want to have and they've got the discipline, but they need the infrastructure. So these are all things that solutions that we are slowly but surely working into our development pipeline. So yes, we are definitely looking at how we can cater for the unbanked as well.
Okay. And just interestingly, as we've been talking, my mind's been shifting to the fact that there's huge potential here for this product to be used for small businesses. And would there be any restriction in terms of a small business using your operating system? It would provide exactly what businesses need in a one-stop shop thing, with full compliance, full registration, taking quite a lot of headache away from small businesses. The guys that are starting off businesses are already focused on trying to get their business going, and so often these things tend to eat into their time and focus. And I would imagine that there's no reason why the system couldn't be used for small businesses.
100%. So we're already testing that. So the official answer is, if anybody asks, is we are focused on the domestic worker, because we really do, a fundamental goal of AskMandla is that we want to bring what we believe. So the stats will tell you there are 800,000 domestic workers in South Africa. Our numbers sit closer to double that.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of domestic workers that are obviously unregistered or unknown of. So we know that we want to make that shift and get these guys contributing to the fiscus and contributing in the formal way. What we already have, we've got cafes. When I say lots, we've got a cafe, we've got a paddle court, we've got a coffee roastery, all who are already utilizing our system, and one or two others. So we know that this is definitely something that is in demand for small business as well. What we find quite interesting, I had a great chat the other day at one of the events that I was at, is there are a large number of spaza shops in the informal settlements as well that employ up to 11, 12 kind of additional employees that they've got a great business, and we'd love to bring them through this journey as well. So whether we start there, whether we continue down this road, once we have made a dent into the domestic market, we will be able to facilitate small businesses 100%. So we were thinking along the lines of, even casual labor that you employ for, building, plumbing services, whatever the case may be, where guys are always on the move. A lot of your blue collar workers, maybe where a WhatsApp conversation would be the most convenient way for these guys to even short term contract the guys, make the contributions that they need to make, and then close it off when they're done. So you're absolutely on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And this kind of innovation obviously also has potential beyond the South African borders. You have very similar environments right throughout Africa and in other developing economies where there is such a great need for simple tech-driven systems that work on simple infrastructure like cell phones. It's something that I see great potential for right across Africa. So there's certainly scalable opportunities there for AskMandla.
Absolutely. We part of a brilliant program at the moment through an organization called Endeavour, whose mandate is very much on looking at the potential into the rest of the continent as well. I mean, promoting and helping foster business for small business in South Africa is obviously part of that. But, so through those conversations, we've started exploring what the potential does look like in both East and West Africa. And early predictions would suggest that the market is potentially double, if not even 3 times the
Mm.
size of what we have, to work with within South Africa. So,
Yeah.
suggestions within Kenya is, potentially 2 million workers there. Definitely WhatsApp savvy. So we're very excited about the potential of where this could go, and make further impact across the continent. So it's a massive potential opportunity.
Any last thoughts on, we speak to a market where we support business growth and entrepreneurship. Any last thoughts about taking on new projects and driving entrepreneurship? What is the secret sauce? What do people really need to tap into when they take on a new product, a new service like you have?
I think it's key, and you often find this out the hard way. Is obviously making sure you understand the market and don't sort of go headlong into developing the crazy complicated products and services before actually understanding what the customer needs and what they actually want. So when we did this, and I think I learned it the hard way through the other businesses I had. We set up a very simple MVP to start, myself and my partner Janine. It was literally us sitting on a standard sort of WhatsApp solution, pretending to be this big organization, chatting between ourselves and copy and pasting ChatGPT to make it look cool.
Yeah.
Really just sticky tape and bubble gum. And slowly but surely worked out what resonated, migrated to third-party solutions to stitch together a more robust solution, which we worked with for about 6 to 8 months, which is really great to, obviously continue that development. And only now, within the last 3 months, have we really started expanding on the elements, because key to this business is automating the process. It's got to be cheap and it's got to be quick and it's got to be easy. And our, Stefan, our senior developer, has done an exceptional job of taking those processes that we've built, well, at least that we've tested, and worked them into this agentic AI solution that taps into different tool sets when it needs to, literally automating the process. So, we get our leads in at the top of the funnel, and our bot today has the ability to have a natural conversation with the potential customer, walk them through a journey, answer any questions, take them through the entire onboarding journey, issue a contract to them, and that's all done. And then during the month, they'll come back and they'll get engaged on to log their leave. They'll come and ask for some earned wage access, cash, and it's we slowly but surely just adding on. But we didn't go dive in there and build all of that and then go and take it to market, because
Yeah.
you land yourself in a very difficult position where your overheads are massive and you've got no customers. And not to say that we're not sitting in we have to scale. This business is really about the numbers. We need large numbers, but at least we know what's resonating. We've got a fantastic the customers that we have are super sticky. Our churn rate's less than 2%, which is amazing for a tech business.
Yeah.
and we are talking to them and asking them what's working, what's not working. So that's the kind of thing that that I'd suggest any small business like this does in the early stages.
It's good advice. Understanding what the market needs, and even when you think you've really got a winner, even then, refine, check, refine, uh, make it viable for people. And there's always that balance between cost and what it provides. And I think that's really wonderful advice for people wanting to start out new things. Peter, I'm sure we could probably have another half an hour discussion on this stuff, but the people listening to the podcast get bored to old guys like me talking all the time. And so I want to thank you for joining me on No Free Lunch. It has been a great chat. I think it's provided some really nice insights. And I really want to wish you everything, you and your partners, everything of the best. I think it's a great concept, and we'd love to see it grow from strength to strength going forward. Peter Adolphs, thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.